My husband always spoke about success as if it were a destiny waiting for him. A dream so vivid that he convinced not only himself but me as well. I believed in him because belief was the foundation of our marriage, or so I thought. The night he invited me to a celebration dinner, I arrived with excitement pounding in my chest, convinced that all of the sacrifices, savings, emotional strength, and even the quiet battles I fought behind the scenes had finally led us somewhere brighter. But the moment he slid a crisp envelope across the table, an envelope far too formal and cold for such an occasion, the room shifted. And when I opened it and saw divorce papers, my breath collapsed inside me. It wasn't confusion that hit first. It was the cruel realization that the celebration he spoke of was not for us, not for the life we built, but for his new future. One he crafted without me after draining me of every resource he needed to reach it. I met him years earlier, when the world already seemed determined to make my life harder because of who I was, the color of my skin, the way people looked at me before they listened. I spent years saving, working double shifts, caring for family members, and pushing forward despite endless barriers. When he came into my life, he felt like a warm pause. Someone who praised my strength, who said he admired resilience born from struggle. I didn't know then that admiration can sometimes disguise opportunism. His dream was to start his own company, a luxury lifestyle business he believed would make him stand out in an industry where, according to him, he just needed one chance. He said investors didn't take him seriously, that the market was saturated, that he just needed someone to believe. I should have recognized the pattern. How easily some people expect support without understanding the weight of what they're asking for, especially from someone already carrying generational disadvantages. But love blinds you in soft, convincing ways. I poured my savings into his idea. Every late-night shift I worked, every small bonus I received, every moment I pushed past exhaustion. I funneled it into his dream. I handled the bills when he couldn't. I dealt with the subtle discrimination he never had to experience, the kind that exhausted me on the deepest level. When potential partners turned him down, I encouraged him. When he doubted himself, I lifted him. When he needed more money, I found it. He promised that when the business finally took off, we would celebrate together. That we were a team. That everything we were building would be ours. I believed him even when he began isolating himself, claiming stress, or when his phone lit up late at night with notifications he refused to explain. He started speaking of the business as his, correcting me when I said ours. Little fractures appeared, but I kept convincing myself they were temporary, just part of the pressure he was under. After all, the sacrifices I made were supposed to be stepping stones toward a shared life. But things shifted more sharply when the business began gaining traction. He no longer asked for my help because he acted like he didn't need me. He said I didn't understand that world, as if my intelligence and sacrifices had expiration dates. The more he rose, the more I felt erased. He dressed differently, spoke differently, surrounded himself with people who made me feel invisible even before he introduced me. If he introduced me at all, I felt like I had transformed from partner to background character in his new life. But still, I told myself love needed patience. I told myself growth could be uncomfortable. I told myself loyalty meant endurance. The night of the celebration dinner, I thought all of that endurance would finally make sense. He reserved a private room at a restaurant far more expensive than anything we had ever gone to. The table was set for two, candles lit, and he greeted me with a smile I couldn't read. He ordered wine immediately, acting like a man ready to toast to success. For a moment, I felt hope flicker inside me. Maybe he was finally recognizing everything I poured into him, everything I sacrificed that he never even had the vocabulary to appreciate. Then came the envelope. When I opened the divorce papers, there was no apology in his eyes, only relief, freedom, even. He said it was time for him to move on to a life that matched the future he envisioned. He didn't have to say it, but every unspoken message was loud. He didn't think I fit that future. I wasn't polished enough, wealthy enough, connected enough. After all I had done, after all the racial and financial barriers I fought through to keep us steady, he saw me as a stepping stone he no longer needed. And the cruelest part was his confidence that I would quietly accept it. that I would fade away just as easily as he erased me. But the human spirit does not disappear just because someone decides they've outgrown it. Leaving that restaurant, I walked out not as a woman discarded, but as someone awakening to a truth I had ignored for too long. My worth had always been bigger than the role he gave me. His betrayal was not a reflection of my value. It was evidence of his emptiness. He mistook my kindness for self-sacrifice, my loyalty for weakness, and my support for obligation. What he failed to understand was that people like me, people who endure, who grow despite every barrier placed before them, do not break in silence. We rise. And when we rise with clarity. The days that followed were heavy with anger and grief, but also with something liberating. I gathered every receipt, every transfer, every financial record, because while he may have tried to rewrite the story, evidence does not lie. His business was built on my foundation, and legally, ethically, structurally that mattered. I sought guidance, not in rage but in self-respect. And the more I uncovered, the more I realized he had not only abandoned me, he had underestimated me. People like him often count on quiet compliance. They rely on the assumption that the person who supported them will also protect them, even after betrayal. But I learned long ago that survival often requires reclaiming your truth, even when your voice shakes. I filed for my share. I challenged every form he tried to twist. I confronted every manipulation he attempted to use. And for the first time, he looked at me with fear instead of superiority. Because he finally saw me, not as the woman who kept him afloat, but as the woman who could expose everything he tried to hide. I didn't want revenge. I wanted justice, acknowledgement, closure. What came afterward was simply the natural consequence of his actions. The business he built on my back was now legally tied to me. His new life was not as clean or glamorous as he imagined. And the people he surrounded himself with, people who once ignored me, began distancing themselves from him when they realized the foundation of his success was not ambition but exploitation. My healing didn't come from his downfall. It came from reclaiming my space in a world that repeatedly tried to shrink me. I realized that my value never depended on someone else validating it. My strength had always been mine. My resilience was not his to drain. The discrimination I endured throughout my life taught me to fight, but this betrayal taught me not to fight for people who wouldn't fight for me. Standing on the other side of that story, I found myself grateful, not for the pain, but for the awakening. Sometimes life removes people not to hurt us but to redirect us. Sometimes the betrayal we think will break us becomes the turning point that rebuilds us. And sometimes the envelope meant to end your world becomes the beginning of a life where you finally choose yourself. So I ask anyone listening, how many times have you mistaken your strength for responsibility towards someone who hasn't earned it? And how long will you keep giving your light to people who would walk away the moment they no longer need it? Because the truth is this. When someone uses you as a stepping stone, they assume you won't rise. But when you do, they realize they were standing on the foundation of someone far stronger than they ever deserved.